Incredible reunion. Ex-wife revealed on flight with their baby, an amazing reflection of his life. Jake sat in his cramped airplane seat, heart pounding wildly as he read the article headline on his phone. It felt like a twisted version of his life story was unfurling before him. Just last night, he'd envisioned finally grabbing that promotion at the auto shop, a step toward building a steady life for his son, Max. He had his eyes set on the American dream, but fate had a different plan in mind. As the plane roared to life, rattling against the wind, anxiety gripped him. He could practically feel the weight of the divorce pressing down on him, a bitter reminder of dreams left shattered like glass on the pavement. Memories rushed back, laughter echoing in their old house, tender smiles shared over dinners, the sweetness of raising their son together. Now, it all felt as distant as the clouds outside, having slipped through his fingers like grains of sand. A sudden rustle drew his attention. He looked up, and time froze. There she was, Sarah, the woman who had once been his everything. Cradled in her arms was their infant daughter, Lily. The sight rocked him, a tidal wave of emotion surging through his chest. It was hard to breathe. Awkward glances turned into a charged silence, the past hanging in the air around them like a thick fog. "Jake?" she finally ventured, her voice shaky. He forced a smile. "Hey, Sarah." The words felt brittle, almost foreign. Their conversation was laced with tension, emotions they both wished to bury surfacing like ghosts. They spoke in clipped tones, navigating the history of their relationship, stilted but earnest. The undertones of hurt and nostalgia enveloped them, marking the collision of two fractured paths. And then, just as quickly as the discomfort had settled, turbulence kicked in, causing the plane to shake violently. Jake's heart raced for more than just the jostling seats. The announcement from the flight attendant had struck a nerve more profound than any bumps in the sky. "Brace for impact!" Panic erupted in the cabin, screams mingling with frantic murmurs. Jake's palms sweated against the armrests, as he exchanged a look with Sarah that screamed, "What is happening?" In that moment of uncertainty, the walls closed in, and their past loomed larger than ever. They had lost so much: dreams, love, even their shared laughter. As the plane steadied, Jake caught a glimpse of Sarah's face. He saw the fear etched on her features and suddenly realized she was just as terrified fighting her battles as a single mother, all while cradling Lily in those weary arms. I'm doing my best," Sarah whispered, breaking down the barrier between them. Panic and vulnerability collided, tearing down walls that had held them apart for too long. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As Jake glanced at Lily, bright and unaware, a spark of hope ignited within him. Could they really traverse this chasm of hurt and misunderstanding? Could they navigate the tangled web of their emotions and find a new path forward, both as separate individuals and parents, for their children? As the plane prepared to land, rolling toward a future unknown, Jake felt the weight of the past mixing with the glimmer of a possibility. Maybe, just maybe, this unexpected journey was not just about destinations, but the chance to heal together in ways he never thought possible. Tension simmered in the air as the plane touched down, the sudden bump of landing jolting Jake's emotions further. He glanced at Sarah, who was busy adjusting the blanket around Lily. There was something raw and real about this moment, one that made Jake want to reach out, to hold on to the fleeting connection they shared. But as soon as they were on solid ground, the outside world rushed in, invasive and loud. The cacophony of the airport clamored for his attention, drowning out the quiet whispers of vulnerability they had just shared. As they exited the aircraft, their surroundings morphed into a chaotic swirl of passengers hurrying to their destinations. Jake felt adrift, caught tethered between the past and an uncertain present. "You planning to get a cab?" he asked Sarah, trying to regain some normalcy. "Yeah, just," she hesitated. "I still have some things to take care of." Her grip on Lily tightened as she spoke, a protective instinct wrapping around them both. Jake nodded, though he felt a flicker of disappointment. The weight of 100 unresolved feelings closed in on him. He wanted to offer help, to say something that would bridge the gap between them. But the words lingered unspoken in his throat. As they waited at the baggage claim, he glanced down at Lily again, so small and innocent, her tiny fingers curling around Sarah's hand. The sight made his heart ache. "She's beautiful," he finally managed, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah looked up, her eyes glistening with moisture, reflecting a myriad of unsaid words. "Thank you? She's been my anchor." Her gaze flickered down to her daughter. "It's been hard, you know? Starting over." "I can't imagine," Jake replied, wrestling with his own feelings of inadequacy. He wished he could take some of that burden from her, ease her struggles. But his own life felt so far from stable. I'm working on things too. Trying to figure it all out." Her expression softened, a brief recognition passing between them, a fleeting reminder of the love that once burned brightly, now dimmed by time and pain. "I just want what's best for her," Sarah said, a hint of vulnerability creeping back in. "I never wanted it to be like this." The baggage carousel whirred into motion, and Sarah turned to retrieve her suitcase, breaking their moment. The tension returned, but Jake could feel something shifting. They were both trying, and maybe that was enough to take a small step forward. After Sarah collected her bag, she glanced at Jake, and for the first time, her voice contained a hint of hope. "Maybe we can find a way to co-parent better. For Lily." "I'd like that," Jake replied, surprise evident in his tone. They exchanged numbers again, a step toward rebuilding trust, a thread connecting their fractured lives, and suddenly, everything seemed just a little lighter. "Let's meet next week?" Jake suggested. "To talk about everything." "Yeah," Sarah said, a soft smile breaking through the remnants of their past. "That sounds good. Just us." As they parted ways, Jake couldn't shake the feeling of optimism rising within him, battling against the shadows of doubt that had haunted him for too long. He stepped out into the airport parking lot, grateful for the new light in the midst of uncertainty. And as he watched Sarah disappear into the sea of travelers, holding their daughter close, a thought crossed his mind: was this truly the start of something new? Or just another chapter in a book that seemed never-ending? He took a deep breath, letting the air fill his lungs, and resolved to find out the truth. Jake leaned against his car, the cool air wrapping around him like a blanket. He hadn't even turned on the engine, still lost in thought. His eyes darted toward the airport entrance, part of him hoping to see Sarah and Lily reappearing before him. But the fleeting vision of their figures lingered like a shadow in his heart. What was he thinking? It felt like stepping back into a world he thought he had closed the door on, a world filled with joy, love, and just as much pain. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration rising as he tried to untangle his emotions. "Focus," he murmured to himself, shaking his head as if to dislodge the lingering feelings. With a heavy sigh, he finally started the car, the engine rumbling to life, cutting through the encroaching silence. The drive home was a blur. The streets felt uncomfortably familiar, yet somehow foreign. Each stoplight felt like a pause in time, allowing his thoughts to wander back to the moment when he and Sarah first fell in love. It was a sweet, clumsy thing, full of hope and promise. But time had a way of erasing those memories, replacing them with sadness and regrets. When he reached his apartment, he collected himself, drawing a deep breath before stepping inside. The room was quiet, and the shadows stretched long across the floor. He tossed his keys on the table and sank into his worn-out couch, staring blankly at the wall. There was a comfort in the silence, but it quickly turned oppressive. His phone buzzed, jolting him from his thoughts. It was a text from Sarah. "Thanks for today. Looking forward to our meeting next week." A simple message, yet it made his heart skip. For the first time in years, hope flickered in his chest like a candle in the dark. Maybe they could find their way back to each other. Maybe they could co-parent without the weight of their past dragging them down. But could he really step into that space again? The idea that Sarah might still hold a piece of his heart filled him with dread and excitement. The days leading up to their meeting felt like a tightrope walk. He oscillated between joy and anxiety, envisioning the possibilities of reconnecting. Would they reminisce about old times or delve into the new dynamics of their lives? He had so many questions, fleeting images of how things could be. Finally, the day arrived. Jake spent the morning pacing, rehearsing what he would say in front of the mirror, adjusting his shirt until it felt just right. He arrived early at their chosen cafe, a cozy spot filled with warmth and the aroma of fresh coffee. As he waited, he glanced around, feeling out of place, as if he was on the verge of something monumental. When he saw Sarah walk through the door, holding Lily against her side, the world shrank to just the two of them. A million thoughts flooded his mind, yet all he could focus on was the way her face lit up when she caught his eye. "Hey," she said softly, the warmth of her voice washing over him. "Thanks for coming." "Wouldn't he miss it?" he replied, his voice steadier than he felt inside. But just as they began to settle into easy conversation, an unexpected visitor buzzed through the door, someone from their past, someone whose presence could very well shatter the delicate balance they'd started to create. Jake's breath caught in his throat as he recognized the figure approaching. "Mom?" Sarah's voice was almost a gasp, the warmth suddenly replaced with freezing uncertainty. The moment sent a ripple through the air between them, and Jake felt the dread clawing at his insides. What was going to happen now? Sarah's face paled as she took in the sight of her mother. The warmth that had enveloped their earlier conversation evaporated, leaving a chill in the air that sent shivers down Jake's spine. He stood rooted to the spot, barely registering the mug of coffee in front of him as he watched the scene unfold. "Mom?" Sarah repeated, her voice quivering. Jake could see the flicker of emotions in her eyes: anger, confusion, fear, all mixed into a swirling storm. He wished he could reach out, to hold her hand and steady her. But even he felt unsteady. "I thought you'd be happy to see me," her mother said, the feigned cheerfulness clashing with Sarah's tightened jaw. "I just wanted to see my granddaughter." Lily, oblivious to the rising tension, cooed happily, a bright contrast to the heaviness filling the cafe. Jake glanced down at her, a small knot in his chest loosening at the sight of her innocent smile. That joy was the reason they were both here. "Happy? You have a funny way of showing it, Mom," Sarah shot back, crossing her arms defensively. "You didn't bother to be there for any of us when it mattered." "Let us not do this here," her mother replied, a hint of desperation creeping into her voice. People around them started to notice, eyes flicking toward their table. Jake couldn't help but feel the weight of their shared history pressing down on him. Sarah had tried so hard to distance herself from that part of her life, from the chaos that had been their family's legacy. And here it was again, crashing in like a wave, dragging her under. "Okay, what is happening here?" He finally spoke up, his voice slicing through the tension. "This isn't about you, Sarah's mom. Let us focus on what's important now." He could feel himself stepping into the protective role that had been so instinctive in their past. Sarah glanced at him, her expression morphing from shock to gratitude. "He's right," she said, her voice steadier now. "This isn't the time or place to dredge up the past. We were just starting to talk about how we're moving forward." "Moving forward?" Her mother's eyebrows shot up in disbelief. "With a man who left you?" Jake swallowed hard. He felt the heat in his chest rising but managed to keep his composure. "I didn't leave anyone. I was trying to be what was best for Lily, for both of you." The words hung between them, electrifying the charged atmosphere. Sarah's mom tightened her lips. "You think this is a good idea? Look where your choices have led you." Jake turned to Sarah, searching her eyes for answers. In that moment, he wanted to take her pain away, to shield her from her mother's barbs. Could they really navigate this complicated reunion together? Or was this a new wound waiting to break them apart all over again? "Mom, stop," Sarah said, her voice rising. "This isn't how I want things to go." Tension thickened as Lily began to stir, sensing the emotional undercurrent swirling around her. She reached up for Sarah, and her small hands seemed to break the spell of chaos, pulling the focus back to what really mattered. "Let us step outside for a minute," Jake suggested, voice low but firm. "Sarah, we need to talk." But she hesitated, glancing back at her mother, who was now silent but watching intently. "Please," he urged gently. "For us, for Lily." As they both rose, Jake felt the collective gaze of the cafe upon them. The air hummed with unspoken words, and he wondered if they would ever find their way back to that simpler, happier time. Stepping outside, the sunlight seemed brighter, and the world beyond bustling with life. But inside him, a question lingered that he couldn't shake. Could they truly forge a new path when weighed down by the shadows of the past? And just as they found a quiet corner, Sarah's phone buzzed again. The flashing screen read, "Can we talk? I need to explain." Jake's heart sank. Who could it be now? Jake felt the weight of Sarah's phone in his hand, the words glowing on the screen like a beacon of uncertainty. There was a chill in the air, sharp enough to graze against his skin, and he could feel it resonating within Sarah as well. As she blinked at her phone, he sensed a flurry of emotions brewing, fear and confusion jockeying for position in her features. "Do you want to respond?" Jake asked, trying to sound casual, though he could hear the slight tremor in his own voice. "I don't know," Sarah whispered back, sliding her gaze away from the message. She looked past him into the distance, as if searching for answers in the blur of city life. "Maybe it's about Lily," he suggested gently. "If it's important? She echoed bitterly, shaking her head. "What could possibly be important now, Jake? After all this time?" He stepped closer, sensing the strained radius expanding between them. "You'll never know unless you ask. It might clear some of this cloudiness." "Well, it sure has turned into a hurricane today, hasn't it?" she replied, voice laced with sarcasm, but there was an underlying hint of vulnerability reflected in her eyes. The cafe buzzed just beyond them, but here, it felt like a different world entirely. Jake took a deep breath, trying to ground himself. He thought about the years they had navigated together and apart. The ups and downs, the battles fought, the little victories cherished. And now this. "Maybe I should call my mom," Sarah finally said, biting her lip. "If she's going to be around, Sarah," Jake interrupted, his tone firm but soft, "this is about you. Not your mother. You deserve this moment to figure things out. You and Lily." Her expression softened, and for the briefest of moments, it was as if they were transported back to simpler times. It's always messy. I thought for once we could find peace." Seeing her anguish, Jake reached out, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You're strong. And no matter what happens with that message or your mom, you don't have to face this alone. I'm here." She inhaled deeply, and then looked at the phone again, another storm gathering behind her eyes. What if it's just more hurt? Before he could respond, she swiped the screen, fingers trembling as she opened the message. "Okay." Let see a mix of anticipation and dread flooded through him, and he resisted the urge to look over at the screen. He didn't want to invade her space, but the tension was thick enough that he could almost taste it. He could feel his pulse quickening. "What does it say?" he dared to ask, knowing full well this was a pivotal moment for them. A small gasp escaped Sarah's lips. Her voice trailed off, eyes widening as she read. "It's my ex." Anger erupted inside Jake. How could this be happening now? But as he glanced at her, he could see the storm on her face, the confusion, the pain, and something deeper behind it all, a flickering hope, maybe. "Do you want to talk to me about it?" he asked, lowering his voice, knowing the answer could change everything. Sarah took a step back, her free hand pressed to her forehead as she battled the onslaught of memories and emotions. "I don't know what to say, Jake. I don't know if I have the strength for more baggage. Just don't shut me out," he pleaded. "Whatever it is, we face it together." The air hung heavy with unsaid words, the city sounds blurring into a muted backdrop. This was where they stood on the edge of uncertainty, both emotionally exposed and facing a future that would inevitably lead them back to their choices. As Sarah seemed to wrestle with her thoughts, another notification pinged on her phone, drawing her attention like a moth to flame. The screen lit up once more, and panic flickered across her face. "Now what?" Jake asked, but he could already feel the answer echoing in the pit of his stomach. It's a video call, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He wants to talk face to face now. In that crucial second, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the tapestry of their lives was about to become even more complex. Would this video call open a door to healing, or would it unleash more chaos? Sarah, he breathed, catching her eye, what do you want to do? Her gaze hardened with resolve. Let us find out. He watched as she answered the call, heart racing at what might come next, feeling as though the ground beneath them was shifting. Would this moment pull them closer together, or tear them apart forever? The screen flickered to life with a bright, familiar face staring back at Sarah. Jake felt an electric jolt of tension surge through him as he watched Sarah's expression shift from uncertainty to apprehension. The voice that followed was smooth, almost calm, but it was charged with the weight of past choices. Sarah, her ex began, his tone betraying a hint of vulnerability. I know it's been a long time. Jake stayed silent, watching closely. He could sense the air thickening around them. The cafe, once a bustling center of life, now felt like a distant echo. Sarah's knuckles turned white as she gripped her phone tighter, her body tense, caught between past wounds and the present. Why are you calling me now? Sarah's voice was steadier than Jake had expected, but he could still hear the quivering tremor beneath the surface. I needed to talk. It's about Lily. You deserve to know. There was a pause, and Jake could almost feel Sarah's heart racing in the silence. Just say it, she urged, her tone no longer seeking pleasantries. I'm sorry for how things ended, but I've been thinking a lot. I need to be in her life, more than I have been. Out of the corner of his eye, Jake saw the flickering shadows of emotions flashing across Sarah's face: shock, disbelief, and perhaps a glimmer of hope buried beneath it all. More than you've been? Sarah inhaled sharply. You barely even know her. You just waltz back into my life and expect everything to be fine. Her ex's expression hardened, showing a mixture of regret and resolve. I know I made mistakes, but I can't change the past. I want to change the future for Lily. The intensity of Sarah's emotions spilled forth, overflowing the confines of the cafe. Memories flooded back: broken promises, pain, and late-night cries that echoed through her lonely apartment. You don't get to just decide this now, Mark. You had your chance. Jake felt the anger bubbling in his chest, but he also saw the inner struggle within Sarah. This was a delicate moment. If he pushed her too hard, would she retreat? He took a small step closer, silently offering her support. Her eyes darted back to Jake, searching for reassurance. What could he give her in this swirling storm? Sarah, he whispered, trying to convey with just a look that she was not alone. I care about Lily, he heard Mark say from the video call, pulling her attention away again. I want to be part of her life, no matter how it happened. I'm ready to take that step. The weight of those words hung in the air, and Sarah's hands shook slightly. And what makes you think I'd let you? Mark leaned forward, sincerity etched on his features. Because I finally understand what it means to be a father. And it took me a while, but I'm willing to fight for it. For you both. The raw honesty in his voice hit Sarah like a wave crashing on the shore. She had dreamed of this moment of reconciliation, of healing, but now that it was here, she was paralyzed by fear. Would it lead to happiness, or more heartbreak? Jake's heart raced alongside Sarah's as he saw her struggle. What do you want? He asked softly, needing her to fight for herself too. Tears glistened in her eyes as she faced the screen once again. You talk about wanting to be in her life, but what about us? Are you just going to drop in when it's convenient for you? On the other end, Mark seemed at a loss for words. For a moment, the silence spoke louder than any argument. Jake held his breath, waiting for Sarah's next move. She was standing at the crossroads, a choice that could redefine their lives forever. Think carefully, Sarah. You don't have to answer today, but if you need me. Mark's voice was softer now, almost pleading. That was when Jake saw the shift in Sarah's demeanor. A fire ignited in her gaze, cutting through the vulnerability. I need time. Jake felt his heart flutter at her boldness, but equally stung by the urgency of the situation. The balance was precarious, and as Sarah ended the call, he knew they had ignited a series of decisions. Sarah, he started carefully, wanting to navigate the moment ahead. But as she turned to look at him, he saw a whirlwind of emotion swirling in her eyes, a mix of determination and lingering doubt. Jake, I have so much to figure out, she said, her voice breaking slightly, and I don't know where to start. The weight of uncertainty fell upon them both heavily. As Jake stepped forward to console her, a flood of questions echoed through the silence. Could they build a new life from the ashes of yesterday? Or would this just be another chapter in a gut-wrenching saga? Let us take it one step at a time, he offered, wrapping her in gentle support, both of them feeling the cracks beneath their feet widen with every passing moment. But Sarah's brow furrowed as she stared beyond him, still lost in thought. What if this is just the beginning of an even bigger mess? And in that heartbeat of anguish, Jake knew their journey was far from over. The cafe buzzed quietly, a muted backdrop to the storm swirling within Sarah. The weight of Mark's unexpected return lingered in the air, and she felt both vulnerable and powerful. Choices loomed before her like shadows stretching across the walls. Every word Mark spoke echoed in her mind, stirring a tempest of feelings she had buried for so long. Jake watched her closely. He could see the tornado of thoughts reflecting in her eyes. Vulnerability battled with fury, nostalgia clashed with caution. He wanted to reach out, to draw her from this internal chaos, but he also knew she had to navigate this path herself. You don't have to take it all in at once, he said gently. Let us break it down. Break it down, she repeated, skepticism painting her features. How do I even begin? 1 minute, I'm trying to make a stable life for Lily, and the next, her father shows up like a ghost demanding to be part of it. What if he hurts her again? Then we protect her, Jake replied, his voice steady. You're not alone in this. You have a support system. He gestured around the cafe, where laughter and conversation filled the spaces he and Sarah occupied. You have people who care. You have me. Tears brimmed in her eyes. I thought I could do it by myself, Jake. I always have. You're not a failure for needing help, Sarah. And it doesn't mean you're weak. Jake stepped closer, hoping to anchor her chaotic thoughts. Look, we don't have to make a decision about Mark today. Just think about what's best for you and Lily. She bit her lip, considering. What if he has really changed? What if he really wants to be there for her? Change is possible, Jake conceded. But so are the reasons he hurt you before. Weigh your options carefully. You're the only one who knows him, the only one who can decide what's worth the risk and what's not. Silence hung, pregnant with possibility. Sarah stared at her phone, still showing Mark's lingering face. She flicked her eyes back to Jake. What if I let him back in and he hurts me again? Makes me doubt myself all over again. Then you fight. You stand your ground. You deserve to have your voice heard. His words resonated deep within her heart. You have the strength to carve out a life that works for you and Lily, no matter what choices you end up making. For the first time in ages, Sarah felt an ember of courage ignite within her. She nodded slowly, taking a breath to steady herself. Just then, the door of the cafe swung open, letting a rush of cold air wash over them. In walked an elderly woman, her presence warm and calming. She spotted Sarah and flashed a kind smile. Excuse me, dear, the woman began, halting in front of their table. I couldn't help but notice you seemed troubled. If you need a shoulder or just someone to hear you out, she paused with genuine compassion etched on her face. Jake's heart swelled, seeing Sarah find a flicker of support outside their bubble. As she glanced up at the kind stranger, her walls began to crack a little more. Thank you? I appreciate that more than you know. In that moment, strength washed over her like a gentle tide, a sense of community filling the cracks of her worries. It felt like a reminder that no one really had to face their battles alone. Jake felt the hope growing in Sarah. We can figure this out, he encouraged, wanting her to believe it too, but just then, her phone buzzed again, lighting up with a new message. The familiar dread crept back into her heart. Would this be more from Mark? More from the past she was trying desperately to navigate? Sarah hesitated, the phone trembling slightly as she reached for it. Jake sensed her tension return as she glanced at the screen. It's him again, she breathed, the weight of it sending her heart racing anew. Jake leaned forward, brows furrowed in concern as she opened the message. What does he want now? As the message revealed itself, a sense of foreboding filled the air. Sarah's face paled, and the flicker of courage nearly extinguished. It's a video. Jake's eyes widened as he realized the significance of this new confrontation. What are you going to do? In that electrifying moment, Sarah's answer would determine their fate. Would she face the past head-on or let it slip away again? Curiosity and anxiety pinched at their hearts, leaving the air thick with unanswered questions. Can you handle this? Jake urged gently, feeling the weight of her choice hanging in the air. But before Sarah could respond, another notification chimed in, signaling that this chapter was just beginning. Sarah's heart raced as she opened the video. For a second, the world around her melted away, leaving only Mark's face on the screen. It was a shaky recording, capturing an intimate moment of their baby, in Mark's arms. Look who I found, he said, his voice a mix of laughter and nostalgia. The warmth in his tone felt like a dagger, cutting through her resolve. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes as the reality of it all overwhelmed her. The past wanted to pull her back in, to remind her of the life they had once shared. Turn it off, Jake urged gently, but his voice felt distant. She was entranced, watching him cradle Lily with a tenderness she hoped had finally returned. The image twisted in her gut, grappling with memories of what had once been. Sarah Jake's word was a soft whisper, filled with urgency. But she didn't turn away. She was trapped inside the moment playing out on her phone. I don't know what to feel. Her voice cracked. The initial excitement fluttering in her heart began to transform into fear again. What if he truly had changed? What if this moment was everything they had ever wished for, wrapped in the cloak of her deepest anxieties? The screen flickered, showing another part of the video. Mark's eyes were misty, his expression vulnerable. I know I messed up, but I'm trying. I want a chance to love her, to be the father I should have been from the start. Her heart sank, teetering on the edge of hope and the pain of past betrayals. If only he'd said these words back then. If he really means it this time, she thought, but a wave of doubt washed over her. Sarah, please, Jake pressed again, reaching for her hand. You've fought so hard to protect her from him. Just think about all the pain he caused you. I know, she shouted, the frustration mixing with her confusion. But what if he's really different now? He's saying the things I wanted him to say for years. Jake squeezed her hand, grounding her once more. Focus on what's right in front of you. Your priority is Lily. You've built a life for her, a stable home. Do you really believe you can trust him again? In that instant, indecision rolled through her like a rolling thunder. She could almost hear Lily's laughter as she played in the other room. The thought of exposing her to volatility again felt like a heavy weight pulling her down. But it's her father exactly, Jake said, leaning closer, his eyes piercing hers. He's her father, yes. But is he a father who deserves to step back into her life? Think about the impact he's had on your life. You're allowed to protect your heart while keeping hers safe. Sarah's mind raced as her eyes drifted back to the video. She replayed each emotional beat in her head, trying to sort the truth from the echoes of her past. A patchwork of memories swirled around her: love, heartbreak, laughter, tears. Lost in reflection, she barely noticed when the elderly woman from earlier leaned closer, listening sympathetically. Sometimes, the woman said softly, love isn't enough to mend what was broken. Choose the path that brings you peace, dear. The words struck Sarah like a beacon, illuminating the choice she had to make. But as she braced herself to respond, her phone buzzed yet again, a new incoming message from Mark shining on the screen. A knot formed in her stomach, and she realized that this was only the beginning of her confrontation with her own heart. What if this changes everything? Jake said, but Sarah barely heard him. She was already trembling, apprehensive about the storm that lay ahead. As she finally tapped to reveal the new message, she felt her heart drop, bracing for whatever would come next. What had Mark really sent now? Would this final message be the deal breaker or something that tipped the balance back toward uncertainty? With her future hanging in the balance, she took a deep breath, bracing for the answer. The message popped up on her screen, sending a jolt through her. Sarah, I still love you. I miss us. Can we talk? I'll do anything to make things right. Those words hung in the air, heavy with promise and pain. Every part of her wanted to reject him, to deny him the chance to influence her life again. But the other part, the one that still held a flicker of hope, whispered softly, "What if this is real?" Jake's grip on her hand tightened as he read over her shoulder. "Don't respond yet," he urged, his voice barely above a whisper. "You need to think. Can you give him another chance? Is it worth the risk?" The words looped in her mind like a persistent echo. What if he has really changed? But change wasn't something that happened overnight. Mark's past mistakes loomed over her like dark clouds, casting doubt on every hopeful thought. Forcing her gaze back to the video, Sarah searched for clarity. The way Mark smiled at Lily, the slight catch in his voice when he spoke, was that genuine? Or just another act, a way to bait her back into a life full of uncertainty? Around her, the coffee shop began to buzz as the afternoon crowd swelled. The clinking of cups and the murmurs of conversation created a stark contrast to the storm inside her. She glanced at the elderly woman, who seemed to be watching her closely, concern etching her features. "Excuse me," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "What would you do if you were in my place?" The woman's gaze softened. "I'd listen to my heart, but I wouldn't forget my past. People can change, but love needs more than words. It needs action." Sarah nodded, swallowing hard. The woman's words felt like both balm and burden. "Sarah?" Jake's voice broke through her reverie. "What's it going to be? You have to decide." "I know," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But it's impossible to untangle all these feelings." As if sensing her turmoil, Lily's laughter floated in from the next room, sweet and innocent. Sarah's heart ached as her mind filled with images of her daughter, a world she had fought so hard to protect. "And that's what makes it so critical," Jake said gently, pulling her focus back. "You have to put her first. Are those tears worth the risk of bringing him back into your life?" Before Sarah could respond, the woman leaned in once more. "Life is about choices, dear. In love and in life, the right path isn't always the easy one." With those final words, the weight of her decision settled deeper in her chest. Mark was reaching out, but did the promise of what could be outweigh the past she wished to escape? Suddenly, the screen of her phone lit up again. Another message from Mark, or was it a missed call? The moment of truth loomed before her, and it felt like she was teetering on the edge of a cliff, staring into a swirling abyss. Could she really fathom giving him another chance? Would that bring them closer together, or shatter everything she had built? With trembling fingers, she reached for the phone, her heart racing. The pull of hope and the fear of heartbreak danced dangerously around her. Just as she was about to make her choice, she heard a crash from the direction of the children's play area, the sound of laughter turning to panic. Lily! In an instant, her priorities shifted completely. With adrenaline fueling her, she bolted toward the noise, the weight of the decision left hanging in the air behind her. What she didn't realize was that the moment she stepped into that chaos would change everything once again. Sarah sprinted past occupied tables, her heart thrumming with a new urgency. She burst into the children's play area, where the cheerful atmosphere had turned into a whirlwind of distress. Looking around frantically, her gaze landed on Lily, who sat on the floor, surrounded by scattered blocks and a small crowd of concerned children. But Lily wasn't hurt. She was simply overwhelmed, her chubby fists clenched, tears streaming down her cheeks. The sight of her daughter brought a wave of relief that coursed through Sarah. She rushed over, bending down to scoop her up, cradling her familiar warmth in her arms. "Hey, sweet pea. Mama's here," Lily cried into her shoulder, muffled sobs vibrating against Sarah's heart. In that moment, everything else blurred, the noise, the past, even the uncertainty with Mark faded into the background. Sarah looked around, noticing the children had quieted, curiosity replaced by bubbly laughter as parents comforted their own. The chaos melted away, leaving just the two of them, cocooned in a moment of solace. "I'm okay, Mama," Lily finally sniffed, pulling back to meet her gaze with those innocent, wide eyes. "I just wanted to play." Sarah laughed through her tears, feeling a surge of warmth. "I know, baby. And you can play as long as you want. Just remember, Mama's always here to protect you." Her heart swelled at the realization that no matter what chaos ensued around them, her priority was to ensure Lily felt safe and loved. With Lily in her arms, Sarah stepped back out into the cafe, mind whirling with everything that had transpired. Jake stood leaning against the wall, worry etched into his features. When he saw them, he pushed himself off, relief washing over him like a warm blanket. "Is she okay?" he asked, rushing forward. "Just scared," Sarah replied, holding Lily closer. "But she's all right now." Their eyes locked, and in that high-stakes moment filled with emotion, Sarah felt an undeniable truth solidify within her. No matter the choices ahead, protecting her daughter was her first and only priority. As if sensing the shift in the air, Jake stepped closer, softly echoing her heart. "You're doing great, Sarah. You handled that beautifully." "Thank you," she breathed, the weight of stress beginning to lift. I don't even know where to go from here, but I know I want to shield her from more pain, more uncertainty." A spark of determination flickered in Jake's eyes. "Then let us figure this out together. Whether Mark is sincere or just looking for another shot, your first duty is to Lily." Sarah nodded, feeling a sense of clarity wash over her mixed with newfound strength. Together they began to walk towards an exit, side by side, their past moments lingering behind them like distant echoes. As they stepped into the fresh air, the sounds of life buzzed around them, filling Sarah's spirit with a hopeful essence. Standing by the car, she glanced down at her phone, the messages from Mark still hauntingly present. "Maybe I don't need to respond right away," she murmured. "I have time to think." "Exactly," Jake agreed, his tone firm yet soothing. "You're in control of this. You call the shots, and no one else can dictate your choices." Sarah's heart fluttered at his words. "You're right. I have to protect her first and foremost. That's what truly matters." Her thoughts crystallized further. "I need to prioritize our life, our routine. I want Lily to feel secure and happy. If that means taking a step back from Mark, then so be it." "Absolutely," Jake affirmed, giving her a supportive nod. "And whether that means keeping him at a distance, or letting him in gradually, it's all your call." Unified in their newfound mission, they set out to create the structure they envisioned for Lily's bright future. Their journey didn't have a clear end, but suddenly felt less daunting together. Each thought of laughter, storytelling, and bedtime cuddles flooded through Sarah's mind like a melody, a promise of the love she would create for them both. As they made their way toward the car, Sarah turned to Jake, a smile breaking through the clouds of uncertainty. "Thank you for sticking by me through this whirlwind. I don't know what I would have done without your support." "It's my pleasure," he replied, sincerity glinting in his eyes. "Lily means the world to you, so she means the world to me too. We'll figure out the path together, however long it may take." And in that moment, under the vast expanse of the open sky, Sarah felt an unfamiliar strength ignite within her. "I'm ready to face whatever comes next," she said softly, glancing up at the horizon where possibilities stretched infinitely. With Lily nestled securely in her arms, they climbed into the car together. No matter what awaited them beyond the clouds, they were prepared to embrace it with hope, resilience, and love guiding the way forward. As they drove away, new beginnings sparked all around them. And so, the chapter closed not with the weight of the past, but with the open pages of a future full of promise, illuminated by the light of transformation and growth. Now, it's your turn to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support really matters. comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. We want to hear from you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support keeps the stories coming. Be a part of this journey,